If I was an injury-prone grappler, this is exactly how I would lift. Now this video is not going to be just another technique video. It's going to be digging deeply into the psychology behind lifting, because a lot of men that grapple, that are getting on a bit, often do not lift out of fear. And it doesn't matter what some person on the internet says about lifting technique, they are not going to be able to absorb any of that information, because the fear of doing an exercise and it making a certain niggle or an injury feel worse is a genuine problem for a lot of people. That's the kind of thing I'm going to be targeting today, and hopefully one person walks away from this video with a lot more confidence in entering the realm of strengthening their joints in order to improve how they perform on and off the mat. So what I'm going to be covering today is exercise execution, control and intensity. And like I said, I'm going to try my hardest to keep it as much about psychology as I possibly can. Why should you listen? I actually coach injured and injury-prone grapplers on my online coaching program. I work with many blokes, some with chronic injuries, slip discs, multiple slip discs, nerve damage, shoulder injuries, frozen shoulder, MCL injuries, LCL injuries, and in that moment, it's as much about getting them back on the mat, but just to get them lifting effectively, it's just as much of a physical battle. It's just as much as a mental battle as it is a physical battle. And that's the kind of thing I really want to talk about. Yeah, in a past life, I was a Special Forces Support Group operator, human performance specialist in the British Army, and physical training instructor, trained elite soldiers for most of my tenure over the past 10 years. And yeah, I'm a purple belt, and yeah, all is good in the hood for me at the moment. So when you say, if I was to tell you now, I want you to go and do a squat with this certain technique, you'd just look at me and be like, mate, my knees are fucked. There's absolutely no chance. And one thing I've seen a lot of is people that can't do a bodyweight variation of an exercise will avoid that exercise category altogether. But thankfully, people like me are around that know about 5 to 10 variations before even a bodyweight variation, to then allow you to make them leaps to the bodyweight variation, then to the loaded variation, and the process of that is confidence. But confidence in your joints, joint strength increases, happy days. Does that sort of make sense? While we're here, drop a comment in the comment section below. Which exercise do you just avoid? Is it deadlifts? Is it squats? Just let me know. I'm very interested to see where you are all at. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is execution, right? And for the most part, execution is how your, let's say, it starts with, I call it a pre-lifting ritual. It's just the foundation of how you hold your body in space before you do a movement. And one of my clients at the moment is really struggling with this. And just good habits. Making sure your feet are in the right place, making sure your chest is out, your shoulders are back, and your glutes are engaged, and your core is engaged. Conceptually, if you do that on a press up, if you do that on a squat, if you do that on a deadlift, throughout the entirety of the movement, everybody's usually all good at doing this for the first couple of reps. But if you can think about them basics, foot position, engaging your glutes, chest out, shoulders back, not just on one of your favourite exercises, but also having that good structure, because it's structure at the end of the day. You've got one massive band of muscle working together as a team. If you're not doing that, the structure is, a little bit lazy, you're gonna be off to a winner. But for the most part, execution is moving your arms and legs, right? in a way that allows the joints to move at a full range of motion, right? And we have an epidemic at the moment of people's joints being in absolute tatters, and it's just because not many people are doing this type of stuff. So you could go into a gym and you see thousands of pieces of equipment, and you could look on YouTube for exercises to strengthen my elbows, and you're going to come across thousands of videos in order to strengthen your joints. But to make it really, really simple, to have close to the gold standard of exercise execution, it doesn't matter what exercise you're doing. Just aim to move your joint through a full range of motion. And I know that sounds crazy, right? But think about this. Elbow moves like this, moves like this. Elbow, this. The knee moves exactly the same way as the elbow. It's a hinge joint. So if you're doing an exercise which does that, you're moving your joint through its full range of motion and you're strengthening your joint to a really good standard. So elbows and knees, you compare them together. If you're doing an exercise, any exercise by the way, it could be a lunge, it could be walking up the stairs, it could be a squat, it could be a deadlift. Deadlift, not really a very good example because deadlift doesn't really move your joints fully. It works the joints at length. Anyway, I digress with my nerdiness. So you compare the elbows and the knees together, and always a good habit would be to move your joints through the full range of motion, right? Where it gets a little bit more complicated is with the shoulders and with the hips. Obviously, they're a ball and socket joint, so they don't only move up and down, they also rotate as well. They move laterally, and they move in, and they also rotate in the socket. So exercises which challenge that is a little bit more difficult, but all you need to think about is, honestly, what's the most injured joint in jiu-jitsu? It's the knees, right? So if you can train your knees effectively through a full range of motion, you're going to be absolutely 10 times better than you ever have been in your life. The second most injured joint in jiu-jitsu is the shoulders. So if you can nail training your knees and your shoulders, then you can pair them up with, okay, well, the shoulders are similar to the hips and the knees are similar to the elbows. That's kind of all you need to be doing. Yes, there's people that are going to say, yeah, but my lower back, this, that, and the other. I'm not going to talk about the lower back that much in this video, but I just want you to hold these concepts in high regard. The initial structure of how you stand when you're doing the movements, but having the intent to train any given joint, maybe one at a time, or multi-joint movements are fine, but make sure you have a primary joint in which you are targeting within that working set, in which you have a goal to train through its full range of motion. Now, the caveat to that is, of course, if you haven't done a squat in 20 years, you are going to shit yourself at the very thought of a squat. And I'm going to talk about that in a bit more detail when I get onto the intensity slide. But hopefully you appreciate execution is transferable to any different movement, and you executing a movement to a very high standard is you training one joint through its full range of motion, because that's how we get strong joints, lads. Tempo is relatively important when you are starting out. It's always good to make sure that you have full control over every movement that you do. Gone are the days where you're just slamming out reps for the sake of it. It's all about quality reps, especially when you're starting out and you're also entering realms and ranges of motion in which you haven't tried or haven't trained for years. Do you know what I mean? So, for example, you haven't done a lunge in 15 years, ever since that knee injury that you had at work. Simply going out, warming up and then smashing out lunges at the speed of 1,000 gazelles, it's just not going to cut the mustard. You need to have that control, and I'm talking 3-4 seconds on the way down, pausing at the end range, and then return back to the start. Every rep should take about 4 seconds, and then your last rep should take considerably more if you're going to the high intensities. So always having good control, it doesn't have to be counted, it doesn't have to be 3 seconds, 2 seconds, all this complicated shit. Tempo just means control. Make sure you are in control of the movement, because at the end of the day, we are training, so like it's kind of, you need to absolutely own each millisecond. And this is one thing I really appreciate about strength training. And listen, I'm going to sit here as Mr. Internet Man talking about, getting stronger and stuff like that. I was exactly in your shoes. I've had multiple injuries in my time. I popped my LCL doing a back take a couple of years ago. Elbows have always been, in a bit of a pickle. And I'm working extensively with my one-on-one clients through all of these injuries as well. Massive injury nerd, you can call me. But tempo is so important when you haven't trained these areas for a long period of time. There was another point on tempo, and it's just escaped me, and I'm devastated because I know it was good. Fuck! I remembered the point about tempo, so here is different version of me holding my phone up. Basically, the reason I want you to fully appreciate tempo is because when we're on the mats, we don't have full control over the situation. We think we do, but our training partners, as awesome as they are, have other ideas, right? And I know life's fast and life needs to be exciting and stimulating, but there is a serious beauty about not having distractions, not having that training partner pulling your elbow in, the opposite direction, not pulling your shoulders in an opposite direction. When you have the luxury of being able to concentrate and focus on the strengthening of your joints because you are executing the movements well and you have full control, that is an extremely rare bit of training that not many people do. So there is beauty, I like to say there's a beauty in the boring. I don't think it's boring anymore. I think it's extremely effective by having the full control and really concentrating throughout the entirety of your working sets. Right, intensity. It is my belief that intensity is the most important part of your strength training endeavours. Now, again, I currently don't have any injuries, and it's very easy for me to say how intensity is the very, the best thing you can ever do. And what I mean by intensity, I mean not training your joints at 50% effort. And you will hear me on this channel say training your joints. I'm not a person, I know for a fact a lot of your joints are weak, and that is exactly what I want to highlight every time you watch me on my videos, is we're strengthening our joints. We're not necessarily going into the gym to lift loads of heavy weight and build loads of muscle. We're going into the gym to strengthen our joints. It's that simple. Like, I don't like the negative stigma that goes with weightlifting and protein shakes and all of that bollocks that the young kids are doing nowadays. We're just strengthening our joints. Yes, the byproduct of it is, yes, we're going to look better, we're going to feel better, we're going to have better energy, better recovery on and off the mats. We're going to build muscle. Yeah, cool. But the goal, the priority is strengthening our joints. Intensity, and I'm talking close to failure. This is almost impossible for you to see yourself doing when you haven't lifted for multiple decades. And I can completely empathise with you because I've got clients in my program that were in exactly that same boat, and watching them transition from somebody that couldn't train to a high intensity, because a lot of blokes, I've got that point by the way from my previous slide, tempo and 50% intensity, anyway, I will get back to it in a sec. A lot of blokes, as they get to a certain point of their life, maybe after a certain period of time prioritising family life and work commitments and stuff like that, when they come back to prioritising themselves, maybe a little bit, other than jiu-jitsu, I'm talking about off the mat, a lot of people have all of this fear, and they love training, and they love the idea of, working out and stuff like that. But there's just a lot of hesitation, and I'm talking men that train at 50%. They'll go to the gym, they'll do a workout that takes an hour, 90 minutes. They'll sit in the sauna, sit in the ice bath, go for a swim. But realistically, the intensity in which they trained at was like 50 or 60%. Now, if you're doing a 50 or 60% intensity session with lifting, you're only increasing the blood flow. You're only increasing the blood flow and nutrients to the joints, which arguably is a warm-up. Now, if you're training your mobility, 50, 60% effort, again, you're increasing blood flow. You're just increasing, basically the results that you're going to get is short-lived because blood flow comes and goes, do you know what I mean? The blood goes to wherever the body needs it. But what I'm saying is there is absolutely a path to earning the right to train at high intensity. And what that looks like is I say simply, it's not simple because it's simple for me because I know it. It's finding an exercise or a variation of an exercise in which you can do with confidence, because confidence, everything that I've talked about here, confidence is so important. Like, you will never listen to a word I say unless you have confidence that you can do it. And if you're sat there with no confidence that you can do it, you're just going to be like, this lunatic is talking shit. And that's what I'm trying to do on this channel. I'm trying to build your confidence because I understand the deficit. As I say, I'm working with grapplers now over this hurdle. Confidence is key at the start to get you in the right mentality to do all of this stuff, the execution, the tempo, the intensity. And you're not going to maximize your gains until you're training with an intensity. Without confidence, you're never going to train intensity. So, what the hell can you do to train at a really high intensity? You've just got to change the exercise. You've basically got to forget what you think you know about training. I need to do a squat, I'm a man. Listen, you do a squat when you're getting out of bed. You use your arms. Yes, there might be a few croaks and creaks and all the rest of it in your knees, but you use your arms. What's wrong with using your arms? Absolutely nothing. So forget that is the perception of that is bad, because it's not. Do you know what I mean? What's to say that, you get out of bed, you go to bed, you have a nap, whatever, you go to bed on a night, you're still squatting, lowering yourself down. What's to say you can't do that multiple times a day, like 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10? That's going to improve the strength of your knees. And then you change the depth, you increase the depth to get that full knee flexion. A variation of an exercise which allows your crazy body to prioritize full knee flexion because you're wearing boots, 8 hours a day, you've got tight hips because you're driving a lot. Variations of an exercise that take hip mobility and ankle mobility completely out the equation and allow you to work your knees. So there is a path to gaining confidence and gaining strength. However, the path is absolutely not avoidance, because avoidance reduces confidence and you're completely missing out intensity. But this is all on an individual basis. Like, I'd love to sit here. There was a period at the start of this year where I was confident as a coach I can get people to train safely at a high intensity, in about 4 to 6 weeks. So they're maximising the amount of gains that they're getting from the training sessions. It really does depend. Sometimes, a certain injury, let's say a slipped disc, some nerve symptoms, it really, really takes a long time. But I say the flip side of it straight away. What can you do? Do you know what I mean? Find a start point that doesn't hurt. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely not. It's not good enough to just, I can't squat, so I'm not going to squat. You do it on a morning. The same with lunges. I know so many people that avoid lunges because if they feel it in their knees. Okay, cool, that's fine. Obviously, you're going to be crap at it because you haven't done it for decades. Do you know what I mean? Same with lunges, same with press-ups, same with pull-ups. And then, the gym is an advanced version of that. So, obvious things are obvious, and one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot is the psychological effects of training, you know what I mean, of weightlifting. And sadly, you know, let's say doctors and certain physiotherapists, they're going to say to you straight away, look, don't do the sport, don't do jiu-jitsu, don't do this, don't do that. And you're riddled with fear. The surgeons, you say to a surgeon, how can I avoid this knee injury in the future? They'll go, don't do jiu-jitsu. There's no chance of that happening. We're going to do this sport for the rest of our lives, as simple as that. We love it that much. But we have to start thinking about ways in which we can get our joints stronger, even if they feel so weak at the moment. Do you know what I mean? And there is a way, you know, it could be you in your front room. Do you know what I mean? There's people on my program, couldn't even drive. He'd ruptured his ACL and torn his meniscus, couldn't drive to the gym, so he had to do rehab to strengthen his knee in his office at home. Then he could drive to the gym, so then we could receive the fruits of the exercise machines in the gym to train the joints a little bit better. There's always a start point. The point I'm making, I swear to God, there is always a start point. And the more you enter these realms cautiously and safely with, you know, pride in yourself, execution, aspire to have perfect technique, but always in the back of your head, always think, which joint am I actually trying to strengthen here? Tempo, have full control over the movement. One of the best exercises, right? If you can't do a squat, you can't do a lunge, do a hold, right? One thing I say to guys that struggle to squat without pain is do an isometric hold against the wall. Go down to a depth in which you feel it quite good in your knees. Aspire to get to a 90-degree knee bend. This is me getting a little technical now. I said I was going to talk about the psychology, but this exercise will improve your confidence squatting. Yeah, do a hold. If you can't do a moving exercise that's too dynamic because your knees are that weak, then do a hold. Go down and hold it for 10-15 seconds. You're getting 15 seconds in a certain position, and usually that position is where you're weak. A few weeks down the line, and in the fitness space, we call it newbie gains. Like, it's something that you don't really get on the mats because we're always terrible, even me, 7 years in. But in the fitness space, in the strength space, when your body adapts to, you know, a certain stimulus, it's kind of like you get results like that. It's like, pyong. You get like a massive trajectory at the start. If you consider your joints to be really weak, do this. Just try and absorb some of these things that I'm teaching you. You'll be amazed by just how fast you get yourself out of these holes. But yeah, confidence. It comes through confidence. And how the hell do you get confidence? It's with experience. Tomorrow I'm going to be going into some of the techniques on some of the needle mover exercises. I wanted to keep today mainly on the psychology. Hopefully I achieved that. Let me know in the comments if I did. If you like this kind of stuff, you know, definitely subscribe to the channel. Leave us a like. If you got any questions, if you want these presentations sending over, I can send you them over. Just message me on Instagram. If you want to work with me on a close one-to-one basis where we implement these type of systems, thought processes and strategies for grapplers, then the link is in the description. But tomorrow I'm going to be talking specifically about some exercises that are constantly coming across my desk as causing the biggest problems and the most fear. Because if we don't address the fear, we will never do these exercises in our lives. And I really, really want to address the fear on this channel. So tomorrow, squat, lunge and some shoulder work. It's the knee that last year I genuinely believed the knee was the most injured joint in jiu-jitsu. This year it's changed to the shoulder. Got a lot of shoulder clients on at the moment, so we're going to be talking about that tomorrow, and basically how I, as a joint strength expert, can get you started doing movements with confidence from barely any experience level. Because as soon as you start that and feel the fruits of that, you're on your way and you're going to be like, this is unbelievable. You're going to feel so good, because it doesn't matter how old you are. This stuff, it's gonna change your life. It's gonna improve your quality of life first, and it's gonna improve you on the mats after that. That's it from me, gentlemen. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed delivering this. I'm very passionate about the psychology behind it all, especially when I'm working with blokes similar to yourselves on my program. So that's it from me. 24 minutes. Get in there. Take it easy. I'll see you tomorrow.